Hello, this is CapCan Knows, the official podcast of the Capital Area College Access Network. We are excited to engage the community in conversations about college access. I'm your host, Jacob Tkachuk in AmeriCorps Vista, serving with CapCan. Today we have Michelle Strauss, Executive Director of CapCan, joining me again today. And our special guest today is Daniel Eichinger, the Director of Michigan's Department of Natural Resources, or DNR as we'll be calling it for short. So first of all, Michelle, thank you for joining me here again today.
Glad to be here.
And Director Eichinger, thank you all for taking the time to meet with us today.
My pleasure.
And so let's just jump right into it. First of all, Director, who encouraged you to go to college, and why was it important for you to continue your education after high school?
Well, probably like a lot of folks, my parents really encouraged me, my brother and sister and I all to go to college. My parents, certainly on my dad's side, my dad was my grandparents, my dad's parents did not go to college. So having an opportunity for my dad and his two brothers to go to college was a high priority in their family. And that then became a high priority in our family. My mom also, my grandfather went to college. My grandmother on my mom's side did not. So, higher education was a big priority for my parents. And I think, one of the reasons why it was important and one of the reasons why it remains important to continue your education after high school is that whatever, if you go on and get a college degree, it's not like a plane ticket in the sense that like you leave one place and it necessarily ends up at a destination. A college degree is a lot more like a passport where it just kind of provides you with an opportunity to kind of go anywhere you want in the world. And as an employer, having a college degree is just kind of an essential precondition for being able to establish a career and then advance in that career. So it was always very, very important for us in the house that I was growing up in. It was an expectation that we would go to college, and so it was really never a question or a debate about whether or not I would go. And I was fortunate enough to have parents who supported me in doing that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Having a network like that is always beneficial. So thank you. For those in our audience who don't know what the Department of Natural Resources is, could you please tell us more about the DNR?
Sure. A lot of what I think people the image they conjure in their mind's eye when they hear about the Department of Natural Resources, obviously, our 103 state park and recreation areas that we have all across the state. We welcome 26 million visitors into our state parks every single year. We also have the management responsibility for 4.5 million acres of public land here in the state of Michigan. We manage our hunting seasons, our fishing seasons. We do wildlife research and wildlife-related conservation activities. Same on the fisheries side. We have a robust hatchery system where we're stocking and planting a whole variety of sport fish species into the Great Lakes. We have a law enforcement division that helps to enforce the natural resources laws in the state of Michigan, giving Michigan citizens an opportunity to safely enjoy the natural resources. We have a minerals program. We manage, I think like 6.5 million acres of subsurface mineral rights in the state of Michigan. And we also manage the largest state forest system east of the Mississippi River, 3.9 million acres. So we work with private sector partners to facilitate the harvest of timber that is kind of following or a derivative of our state forest management plan. It helps to facilitate the forest products industry in Michigan, a $21 billion industry here. So we do a lot of things here in the department. We touch a lot of people. We come into contact with a lot of members of the public, and it's a wonderful place to be. We have of all the state agencies, we're one of probably the most public-facing state departments that we have here in the state of Michigan, and so consequently we get to interact with the public a lot. But the diversity of programs that we manage and the diversity of places that we manage provide a lot of opportunities, provide a ton of opportunities for folks, from on the employment side to be able to, participate and be involved in the management of our natural resources in ways that probably fly under the radar for a lot of folks. They don't know that we do some of the things that we do.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. A lot of information there, and I know for a fact that I was talking to some of my best friends recently, and they have no idea of the scope that the DNR really has or is in Michigan. So thank you again for sharing that.
So as part of the Whitmer administration, you probably are aware that the governor has a goal of 60% college attainment by 2030.
Mm-hmm.
So why would the DNR care about college access?
Well, first of all, it's just important, it's an important goal for us as a citizenry to have. But then, more specifically to the Department of Natural Resources, a lot of what we do, not all of what we do, but a lot of what we do is very technical in nature. And there are very specific disciplines that are built around the work that we do. And there are also disciplines that change and evolve a lot over time. I mean, we understand more about, wildlife management, fisheries management, forest management, and those fields are all, very active fields where, the base of knowledge expands all the time. There's new research and new thinking. But we also have this responsibility, because we're a state agency, of being reflective of and responsive to who all the people of the state of Michigan are, not just our quote unquote traditional stakeholders here. So college access generally is important for the department because we're going to constantly need to feed the pipeline of people who are coming into the department and working on these very important program areas. And expanding who has access to higher education in the state is important for us, because as we're trying to recruit folks in to work for the agency, making sure that we're recruiting employees who are as diverse as the state of Michigan is a really important characteristic and value for a public agency to have. We need to be reflective of who the people are here in the state of Michigan. So making sure that the opportunity cone is as wide as it can be is really important strategically for the department to do. It's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Great. So we were fortunate in order to be able to take a group of students up to the UP last summer, and you were able to sponsor a conversation with one of your staff people about the diversity of careers within the Department of Natural Resources. So talk a little bit about those careers, and then some of the college or credentialed programs that students might need to have in order to be able to work for the DNR.
Sure. Well, we have the really traditional disciplines, so fisheries, wildlife, forestry, law enforcement. Those are all fairly self-explanatory. So if you want to be a biologist, working in a fisheries program or wildlife program, there's a fairly specific track that you're going to get on to study wildlife biology or fisheries management or limnology, something along those lines. Same thing with forestry. There's a fairly discrete discipline there within forestry and law enforcement. But then when you start to kind of dial back the resolution a little bit and all of the other things that happen to support the Department of Natural Resources, we have a marketing and outreach division where we we're communicating with the public. We're trying to figure out ways that we can situate opportunities so that the public knows that they're available and that they have an opportunity to connect with them. We have a whole variety of folks who work on procurement, financing, engineering. We own a lot of facilities. We maintain a lot of facilities. So folks who are interested in civil engineering and facilities management, construction, and that kind of stuff. I mean, we have thousands of miles of roads. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of buildings that we manage and maintain. So there's all of that. We've got auditing functions within the department. We've got policy. We've got policy folks who really like to get in the weeds on how the legislature works and how our regulations process unfolds. So we have a really interesting kind of cross-sectional perspective on all the things that. We can pretty much find a home for anybody who has pretty much any skill set or background. And that's to say nothing of our parks and recreation staff who are out doing everything from managing and maintaining parks, interfacing with the public, conducting some law enforcement activities, thinking about education programming, all of those kinds of things. So if you've got an education background, a business and finance background, accounting background, marketing background, public relations background, policy background, political science. There are all of those folks and more who work here in the Department of Natural Resources. And those are opportunities for folks who might have a sort of a recreational interest in the out of doors. But like me, I followed a pretty untraditional path into the department. My undergraduate degree is in political theory and constitutional democracy. I kind of fell into the natural resources world, and have spent almost my entire career here. Later on, went and got a master's degree in fisheries and wildlife and a master's of public administration degree. But I have followed a sort of non-traditional path into the field, but that hasn't necessarily been limiting on my opportunity here. And I think that's like a really well-kept secret here in the department, is that we can find a home for a lot of different backgrounds and disciplines within our agency.
So we share in common, it sounds like, 2 degrees, our political theory and our public administration degrees. So when you got started here at the department, what process do you have to go through as a young person to get a job within the department?
Well, a lot of, it kind of depends on how, in some respect, it kind of depends. So for the vast majority of folks looking to get their foot in the door here in the department, all of our job opportunities, as all of the opportunities are for the state of Michigan, are out on the state of Michigan's career website. So that whole recruitment process, if that's not a website that folks are acquainted with, I would encourage them to do that. I think there are email notifications that you can sign up for so that you're kept apprised of opportunities here. I came into it a little bit non-traditionally, in the sense that I had been working over in a governor's office during the Granholm administration, and then when I got my foot in the door in the department, I was an unclassified employee, which is basically an appointee of the governor, appointee of the director, and I was a legislative liaison here for the DNR. So I was the person who worked very closely with the legislature, worked on advocating for the legislative priorities of the agency, and that was kind of how I got my foot in the door. And then I had an opportunity to work in our wildlife division in the civil service, and just kind of worked my way through that way. Most folks are going to come into the department through the portal I talked about kind of at the first bit of this segment, which is through the civil service website and the State of Michigan Career Opportunity website, and that's where you're going to be able to find a track to get on.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. So something you may not know is I have a lot of ties to the DNR, specifically a lot of fond memories of going to the state parks. And also my first, air quotes, real job outside of high school was serving as a seasonal worker at Sleepy Hollow State Park up near Langsburg. And something that a lot of people don't realize is the DNR offers a ton of summer employment opportunities for young adults, specifically high school graduates and college students. Could you please tell us more about these opportunities for these young adults to work in the summer or seasonal work with the state?
Sure. Our workforce expands considerably during the summer, and obviously, summertime. I don't think there's a better place to be in the summer than the state of Michigan. And those 103 state park and recreation areas that I was talking about, that Jacob, you're referring to, we depend. That's not necessarily a full-time workforce that's providing all of that, all of that support, all of those services to our visitors when they're at our parks, when they're at our campgrounds. So we staff up considerably, and all those, all that recruitment happens starting, kind of in the early spring. And we depend very heavily. I think our workforce expands by almost 50% in the summertime, and they're embedded throughout the state of Michigan at each one of those areas. And then also in the fall, we rely pretty heavily on a seasonal workforce in the fall, because obviously our deer check process is happening then. So we have folks all over the state of Michigan that are manning our deer check stations and interacting with hunters, aging deer, taking important biometric data that we have on the whitetail harvest. So we're very heavily dependent on a seasonal workforce here in the Department of Natural Resources. So again, all those opportunities, those are a great way for folks to experience the department. In fact, our deputy director, Shannon Hanna, she started out as a seasonal employee in the department. And as many folks throughout the agency did, they started out doing seasonal work, got an opportunity to apply for full-time work, and then have kind of worked their way through career work their way through their career here in the department. So it's a great way to kind of get introduced to the culture of the agency, understand a little bit more about our programs, and gives you a little bit of insight into what some of the different career paths are within the department. So folks are interested and need a job. There are a few places that are better to spend a summer than at one of our state parks.
Well, I really enjoyed my time. A lot of great experiences, great staff, and it's very rewarding to see families have fun at the recreation areas in the state, and I've had a lot of fun growing up myself. So thank you for sharing us, and I'm assuming that the students can find these opportunities on the state jobs website as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. All of our recruitment happens through the civil service website, and so again, if folks can find that website and then sign up for email alerts or whatever alerts or notices they have about those positions, and we'd love to have folks out. There's lots of opportunities out there. We hire hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of seasonal workers every summer, so there's plenty of opportunity out there for folks.
All right. Well, thank you. So how can we as Michiganders do our part to help preserve Michigan's natural resources? You at the DNR and everybody here in the department each have a little bit more of a direct, or it seems like more of a direct impact, whereas us Michiganders who visit these state and recreation areas or use the land, how can we do our part to help preserve Michigan's natural resources?
Probably the most important thing that folks can do is to go out and use these natural resources that belong to you. The Department of Natural Resources, we have a stewardship role, so we manage and maintain these places and these natural resources in trust for the people of the state of Michigan. And that only works, that equation only works if folks commit themselves to going out and visiting our state parks and wandering through our wildlife areas, going out hunting, taking someone fishing, going camping, using our trails, participating in outdoor recreation. It's hard. I think it's very hard for folks to steward things that they don't know. And so it's really important, we really just manage opportunity here in the state of Michigan. And so, it really becomes easy, and I think it becomes self-evident for most folks to want to take care of places that they have found a personal connection to nature in. And for a state that's so blessed with the amount of public land that we have, the amount of public recreation opportunity that we have, and that's not just within the Department of Natural Resources atmosphere, but that's, we have wonderful local parks and county parks. We just have wonderful recreation opportunities here, whether it's through the State Department of Natural Resources, the federal government, or your city park, county park, your local recreation authorities. Go out and use these places. Take your kids out there, take your friends out there. They belong to you. We are fortunate to be stewards of those places, but that ethic of conservation, that ethic of caring for our natural resources, comes on a one-to-one relationship that you have with nature. And so it's really incumbent to go out and take advantage of and enjoy all these places that we have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And unfortunately, it looks like our time is running out. I personally would love to stay here and talk a little bit more, but such as today. But I do have one last question for you, Director. We end every interview with Capcan Knows, where you would state your name and what you know. So I ask you, Director Eichinger, who are you and what do you know?
My name is Daniel Eichinger, and I know that the greatest playground in the United States is right here in the state of Michigan.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I could not agree more. So, but that is all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you, Director, for coming on the podcast to chat with us today.
My pleasure.
And Michelle, thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you. I learned a lot.
For more information on the DNR, there are links to their website, their social media, and the state jobs website will be in the description below. And for more information on CapCan, please be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. The links will also be in the description below. Or visit our website at capcan.org. Thank you all for listening to us today, and we will see you again very soon.